What do you do when the person a child should trust the most becomes the reason her story ends in tragedy? In the quiet Tennessee town of Hendersonville, a darkness crept in beneath the surface of ordinary life. It didn't come with sirens or headlines. Not at first. It came quietly, behind closed doors. In the summer of 2016, the life of 11-year-old Tamia Batts, known affectionately as Tama, was suddenly and violently cut short. And what followed didn't just break her family. It cracked the entire community in half. Because this wasn't just a loss, it was betrayal. And not by a stranger in the night, but by someone who once cradled her as an infant. Tama's death wasn't a whodunit. The case was closed almost as quickly as it opened. But what makes this story so hard to let go of is why. Why did it happen? Why her? And why does the official story still leave a trail of questions that no one, not even time, has been able to erase? Welcome to True Crimes by Dominic, where we dive deep into the darkest truths hiding in plain sight. If you're drawn to stories that chill you, shake you, and make you question everything you think you know, then subscribe now, like this video, and drop a comment below. Tell me, do you believe some people are simply born with darkness? Or does it grow inside them over time? But first, let's go back, before the sirens, before the headlines, before the tragedy. Back to the beginning. July 2nd, 2005. A baby girl named Tamia Batts took her first breath. Born to her mother, Sarah Harris, and father, Timothy Batts, she entered the world innocent, loved, wanted, full of potential. But behind that new life, cracks were already forming. Tamia's parents didn't last long. Their relationship unraveled fast, eventually dragging them into court, where custody became a battlefield. And when the dust settled, Timothy Batts walked away with full custody of his daughter. To the outside world, it seemed like a father stepping up, a man trying to do right by his child. But behind the scenes, something far darker may have been building. A tension no one could see, a pressure that would one day erupt in a way no one could have predicted or prevented. By the summer of 2016, Tama was 11 years old, bright, beaming, creative. She had that rare kind of joy that lit up a room without even trying. She danced, she cheered, she made goofy videos on YouTube and loved experimenting with makeup and colors that made her feel beautiful. Hey YouTube, so today I'm going to be doing a makeup tutorial. In her videos, Tama seemed like any other happy, expressive tween. A young girl exploring who she was, laughing at her own jokes, practicing confidence in front of a tiny phone screen. Her energy was magnetic, her smile pure. And if you asked anyone who knew her, they'd say the same thing. She was sweet, playful, full of life. She loved her siblings. She was excited for a new school year, nervous but hopeful. Everything about Tama said she was moving forward. But in reality, something was pulling her back. And on August 1st, 2016, it caught up with her. What happened that day inside a Hendersonville home would leave a family broken, a father behind bars, and a little girl buried far too soon. But what still keeps people awake at night isn't just what happened. It's what we'll never fully understand. Stay with me to the end of this story, because sometimes the most haunting part of a tragedy is the silence that follows it. For 11-year-old Tama Batts, August 8, 2016, wasn't just another Monday. It was supposed to be a milestone, the first day of 6th grade, a new school, a new chapter, and a fresh pair of nerves and excitement bundled up inside her small frame. Like most kids her age, she was eager to make a good impression. The night before, Tama laid out her clothes, her favorite outfit, pressing each item with care. Her backpack was zipped, her shoes were set neatly by the door. Everything was ready. She was ready. And when the sun rose that morning, so did Tama. She got herself dressed, brushed her hair, and smiled wide for a photo that her family would take of her that morning. An image that would later become one of the last ever taken. She looked happy, proud, innocent. She had no idea the world she was stepping into that day would never be the same by nightfall. Tama made her way to school just like any other child in Hendersonville. She attended Knox-Doss Middle School, excited and probably a little nervous about leaving behind elementary school and entering this new world of lockers, new classmates, and growing up. School went by without incident, and when the final bell rang, Tama boarded her bus and headed home, just like she always did. But what happened next, no one saw coming. Shortly after she walked through the front door of her home, something horrifying happened. A gunshot. Tama was hit once in the chest. Emergency responders were rushed to the scene, and Tama was transported with critical injuries to Vanderbilt Children's Hospital. The bullet wound was severe. Doctors fought to save her, working desperately in the ICU, clinging to every heartbeat. But after 2 agonizing hours, her body gave out. Tama Batts was pronounced dead. Just hours after that joyful first day of school photo, her life was gone. The news sent shockwaves through Hendersonville. No one could understand what had just happened. How could a vibrant, joyful girl be alive and smiling that morning, and lifeless by sunset? As detectives scrambled for answers, attention turned to her father, Timothy Batts, the man who had full custody of Tama and was reportedly at home at the time of the shooting. While at the hospital, police questioned him. His response was vague, too vague. He told investigators that Tama had come home from school, claimed she'd been shot, and collapsed. He said he didn't know what happened, didn't see who did it, and didn't have any answers. It was a story that didn't sit right with anyone, because there was no sign of a shooter, no gunfire reported in the neighborhood, and according to the bus driver, there was no incident during the ride, no disturbance, no altercation, no violence. Detectives believe the gunshot didn't happen outside. It didn't happen on the walk from the bus. It likely happened inside the house. Still, the police had no suspect, no eyewitnesses, no confirmed motive. Nothing but a grieving family, a dead child, and a town in shock. As the media descended on the neighborhood, the quiet street on Shady View Drive transformed into a crime scene. Yellow tape fluttered in the Tennessee heat. Patrol cars lined the block. Reporters whispered into cameras as neighbors stood frozen on their lawns, staring at the Batts' home in disbelief. We're live here in Hendersonville, where a devastating tragedy has rocked this normally peaceful neighborhood. Locals couldn't believe what they were hearing. "Why would anyone shoot a child?" one neighbor said. "She was only 11, just a baby." Even reporters, hardened by years of covering crime, were visibly shaken. It wasn't just the brutality, it was the randomness, the senselessness. Tama wasn't the kind of child who'd be caught up in trouble. She wasn't involved in gangs, didn't run with a bad crowd. She was just a 6th grade girl, a daughter, a sister, a friend. And yet her life had been violently cut short, and the big question still loomed in the air. Who pulled the trigger, and why? At that point in the investigation, police hadn't even entered the house. The crime scene was being secured. Clues were still being collected. The answers were coming, but slowly, painfully. And all the while, the silence around this case was deafening. By now, Tama Batts was gone, and what had started as a medical emergency had quickly escalated into something far more chilling: a homicide investigation. At the hospital, her father, Timothy Batts, had already spoken to detectives once, but the details he gave didn't sit right. Too many things didn't add up. The story felt hollow, like it was missing pieces he didn't want to reveal. So investigators did what they had to. They brought him in again. This time, the conversation would take a very different turn. At police headquarters, Timothy wasn't in handcuffs. He walked in willingly. The detective made that clear from the start. "You're not under arrest," the officer told him. "You came here voluntarily, and I appreciate that. I just want to hear your side." What followed wasn't a confession in the traditional sense, but it was close. Timothy didn't try to deflect. He didn't point fingers. Instead, he admitted it. He said he was the one who pulled the trigger. But he claimed it was a tragic mistake. According to Timothy, he had been home that afternoon, lying down, trying to rest before the kids got back from school. He said he didn't expect anyone to be home just yet. But then, he said, he saw a shadow, a silhouette in the hallway. He claimed he panicked, convinced someone had broken into the house. He grabbed a gun. Fear took over. And in the next few seconds he couldn't take back, he rounded a corner and fired a single shot right into his daughter, Tama. "I thought someone was breaking in," he said. "I didn't know it was her. She scared me. She jumped out. It all happened so fast." He said she collapsed immediately. In the moment he realized it was Tama, panic flooded in. "That's my baby," he said through tears. "That's my world. I would never hurt her. Never." But the detectives weren't just going to take his word for it. By the time he walked into the station, they'd already been working behind the scenes. Security footage had been pulled from cameras inside the house. The authorities were in contact with ADT. They were comparing timelines, looking for any inconsistencies. And they warned him, whatever story he gave had better match what the footage showed. "We've already got the video," the officer told him. "Just make sure what you're telling me matches what we'll see." And here's where things began to unravel. Timothy's explanation was that it was an honest mistake, that he was tired, disoriented, and acting on instinct. But the timeline was tight. The shooting happened immediately after Tama got off the bus. She hadn't been home for long at all. And investigators were starting to wonder, how could a father not recognize his own child, especially one he was expecting home from school? At the same time, every day? As Timothy recounted the story, he kept circling back to the same point, that he didn't mean to do it, that it was an accident, that she wasn't supposed to be there yet. "She was at school. I thought she was still at school. That's why I got so scared." But beneath the tears and trembling voice, detectives saw something else. A man cornered by guilt. A man who didn't come clean until it became clear there was no other option. Not when the cameras were already rolling inside his own house. And then came the most painful moment of all. When he was asked again, "How many times did you fire the gun?" "One shot," he said. "Just once." That one bullet took everything. The room went quiet. The interview wasn't loud or confrontational. It was heavy, thick with a kind of sorrow that doesn't come from just grief, but from the weight of irreversible consequences. And yet behind the tragedy, behind the tears, lay a question investigators couldn't ignore. If this was truly an accident, why lie in the first place? Why tell police you didn't know what happened? Why say your daughter came in saying she'd been shot by someone else? Was it shock? Was it fear? Or was there more to this story than even Timothy was willing to admit? The pieces were beginning to fall into place, but not in the way the family or the community had hoped. Instead of clarity, each revelation brought more pain, more confusion. A young girl was dead. Her father admitted he pulled the trigger. And yet, even with a confession, the hardest part was still ahead. Was justice about to be served, or buried under more questions? It didn't take long for the father's story to start falling apart. In the days after 11-year-old Tama Batts was shot, her father, Timothy Batts, sat down with detectives. His voice was shaky, his words meandering. He painted a picture of a quiet afternoon gone horribly wrong. He claimed he was downstairs in his bedroom, lying in bed trying to squeeze in a quick nap when he heard someone walking across the floor upstairs. He didn't expect anyone home yet. Tama usually got back around 3 or 3:30, he said. He heard footsteps, then saw a shadow, and in that split second, he panicked. He said he thought someone had broken in, so he grabbed his gun. And just as he crept out of his room, Tama jumped out and said, "Boo!" A childish prank, a playful moment, the kind of thing a daughter might do to make her dad laugh. But instead of laughter, it ended with a trigger pull. She was shot in the chest. As he recounted the story, Timothy's voice wavered. He said he didn't mean to hurt her, that it was all just a horrible, split-second accident. Detectives listened. Then they asked him to put it all in writing. A formal statement, he agreed. But things were far from over. After that interview, Timothy Batts begged authorities for one thing, to let him stay free long enough to bury his daughter. He wanted to attend her funeral, to say goodbye. but the request was denied. Why? Because as investigators dug deeper, they discovered that Timothy Batts was a convicted felon. And under the law, that meant he wasn't even allowed to possess a firearm, under any circumstances. Not for protection, not for anything. So now the list of charges began to grow. He was hit with felon in possession of a firearm, tampering with evidence, and most significantly, reckless homicide. Even if the shooting was accidental, prosecutors argued that Timothy's behavior, his carelessness with the weapon, the fact that he had it at all, made him fully responsible for Tama's death. The consequences were swift. Timothy was taken into custody and held in jail on a staggering $1 million bond, a number that, for most people, might as well have been a life sentence in itself. But the story didn't end there. Outside the walls of the jail, something unexpected happened. The community rallied behind him. Friends, neighbors, and even strangers believed Timothy's story, that it was an accident, a tragic, horrifying mistake. Not murder. They didn't see a killer. They saw a father who had just lost his child in the most unimaginable way. People launched a GoFundMe campaign to help raise the bond money. Supporters showed up at the courthouse in droves. When prosecutors arrived, they were stunned by the crowd. Hundreds of people packed the room to stand by Timothy Batts. And it worked. The judge reduced his bond from $1 million to $500,000. The room erupted in cheers. His supporters cried, embraced, and followed him out of the courtroom with chants of relief. "I'm just glad he's coming home," one supporter said, wiping tears from their face. "He deserves to bury his daughter." For a brief moment, it seemed Timothy would get his wish. He posted bond and was released. He attended his daughter's funeral, said goodbye, held her memory in trembling hands. But his freedom didn't last long. Just days, 2 or 3 at most. After being released, Timothy failed a court-ordered drug test. That single violation shattered the fragile grace he'd been given. Judge James Hunter revoked his bond immediately. Timothy was sent back to jail. And as he returned to the courtroom, more grim details about what happened that day came to light. Detective Neil Harris took the stand. He revealed evidence that changed everything. In-home security footage captured the moments leading up to Tama's death. What the footage showed was deeply unsettling. Roughly 5 minutes before Tama got home from school, Timothy was seen pacing inside the house, talking on the phone and holding a handgun. Calm, casual, not startled or panicked. And then the next clip. Tama walked through the door, completely unaware of what was waiting for her. She looked fine, normal, a child returning home after her first day of 6th grade. And then another clip. Tama jumping, visibly jolted, as if she had just been shot. In the video, Timothy rushes over, scoops her into his arms, and runs out the front door. There was blood in the master bedroom, a bullet hole in the wall. And there were no signs of a break-in. This wasn't an intruder. There was no shadowy figure. The only person in that home with a gun was him. As this testimony was shared in court, Timothy rocked back and forth in his seat. Silent, shaken, trapped. Outside, the community still mourned. A makeshift memorial had grown outside the Batts home. Balloons, stuffed animals, candles flickering in the Tennessee dusk. Notes written in shaky handwriting from classmates and neighbors. A reminder of the little girl who would never return. Tama Batts had uploaded cheerful YouTube videos from her bedroom just days earlier. In one, she gave a room tour and smiled at the camera with pride. She had no idea that room would soon be filled with grief. On the anniversary of her death, dozens of people gathered for a vigil. Some cried quietly. Others lit candles and stood in silence. But everyone was asking the same question. How could this have happened? And who, if anyone, will ever be held accountable? On July 17, 2017, 1 year after Tama's death, the trial of Timothy Batts officially began. He entered a plea of not guilty on all charges. But prosecutors were ready for him. In their closing arguments, they didn't try to claim that this was intentional. They didn't need to. Their case hinged on recklessness. Mr. Batts fired without even looking, one prosecutor told the jury. And that is why we're here today. That's why Tamia Batts is not. The defense pushed back. They painted Timothy as a grieving father, overwhelmed by the moment, a man who made a split-second mistake that he would carry with him for the rest of his life. But the jury would have to decide. Was this a man destroyed by guilt, or a man destroyed by the truth finally catching up to him? When Tamia Batts walked into her home on August 8, 2016, fresh off her very first day in middle school, she had no idea her life would end within minutes. We know this much. She walked through the front door just before 2:45 p.m., set down her backpack, and slipped off her shoes like she always did. She passed through the kitchen and into the dining room, likely humming to herself or replaying the day in her head. Then she headed toward her father's bedroom. Moments later, a gun went off. A single shot aimed at an 11-year-old girl's chest. By 2:49 p.m., Tamia was bleeding, dying, and her father, Timothy Batts, was the only adult in the house. According to the prosecution, Timothy knew all 4 of his children would be returning home from school that afternoon. He had been there, waiting, but for some reason he didn't expect Tamia to walk in that early. Just a 10-minute difference. Was it an accident or a fatal lapse in judgment that crossed the line into negligence? That 10-minute gap would become the hinge point in one of Tennessee's most emotionally charged trials. In court, the prosecution stood firm. The facts were clear to them. Tamia had been shot in the chest inside her own home, inside the bedroom of the man who was supposed to protect her. The state has proven, beyond a reasonable doubt, every element of these crimes, the prosecutor told the jury. We're not asking you to guess. We're asking you to decide based on the evidence, based on what justice demands. They argued that Timothy didn't pull the trigger with intent to kill, but that his recklessness, his failure to secure the weapon, and his actions in the aftermath amounted to something that couldn't be brushed off as a mistake, not when the price was his daughter's life. But the defense painted a different picture. They said Timothy wasn't a monster. He wasn't a criminal mastermind. He was a father, a flawed one, yes, but a man who had just made the worst mistake of his life. And now, he had to live with it. His attorney didn't sugarcoat the firearm charge. Timothy was a felon. He wasn't supposed to have a gun. But as for the rest, the defense claimed the state had overreached, overcharged. They said this was a tragedy, not a crime. When Tamia was pronounced dead, he had to pull himself together and walk back into a house with 3 other children, his attorney said, holding back tears. He had to look them in the eye and tell them what no father should ever have to say. Daddy made a mistake, a terrible mistake. According to the defense, Timothy wasn't hiding evidence. He wasn't spinning lies. He was overwhelmed, panicked, running on pure adrenaline, trying to get his daughter to the hospital while answering a dozen questions from officers, trying to understand how everything had spiraled so far, so fast. At one point, he even asked the EMTs if he could ride in the helicopter with his daughter. No, sir, they said. You'll have to drive. So he did. By the time Tamia took her last breath, Timothy was already spiraling downward. The weight of guilt, the confusion, the fear, it all came crashing in. He told his children. He called his family. Then he walked into the police department, knowing full well he might not walk out. I may not see her buried, he reportedly told them. I may not get that chance. And he was right. When closing arguments ended, the case was handed to the jury. 9 long hours of deliberation followed. So, in the end, they reached a partial verdict. Tampering with evidence? Not guilty. Felon in possession of a firearm? Guilty. Reckless homicide? Deadlocked. 11 jurors believed he was guilty of reckless homicide. 1 did not. That lone holdout refused to convict him of causing his daughter's death, even by negligence. And because of that, the jury hung. The prosecution now faced a choice: retry the case or offer a plea deal. Timothy was offered a deal. If he pleaded guilty to reckless homicide, he would receive a sentence of 3 to 5 years, served concurrently with his gun possession charge. Time he'd already been serving would count toward that sentence. Timothy Batts took the deal. He accepted the reckless homicide charge, admitting responsibility, at least legally, for the death of his daughter. It's now 2024. Timothy has served his time. He's a free man. But the public, they're still divided. Some believe he got off too easy, that a few short years in prison isn't enough for the life of an 11-year-old girl, that a mistake, even a tragic one, should come with a much higher cost. Others see it differently. They believe no punishment could ever outweigh what he already carries, the crushing, permanent guilt of knowing he was the one responsible for his child's death. And that guilt? That's a sentence you never finished serving. What do you think? Did Timothy Batts serve enough time for what happened to Tamia? Or was his real punishment never measured in years behind bars, but in the years of pain ahead? Leave a comment below. I read every one, and if you found this story as haunting and heartbreaking as I did, make sure to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Here on True Crimes by Dominic, we don't just tell the stories, we remember the victims. Rest in peace, Tamia Batts. Your light may be gone, but your story still matters.